Book name: The Power of Habit. Everything you did this morning, you did not actually decide to do. Think about the last time you picked up your phone before you even fully opened your eyes. You did not think about it. You did not choose it. Your hand just moved. Or the way you sat down at your desk fully intending to get started, and then somehow, 40 minutes later, you were deep in a rabbit hole of videos you did not even enjoy watching, and you felt that sinking guilt afterward. Not because something bad happened, but because you watched yourself do it and could not stop. That feeling of being a passenger in your own life, that is not weakness. That is not laziness. That is your brain doing exactly what it was trained to do. And here is what makes it even harder. You are not alone in this. Not even close. Researchers at Duke University found that approximately 45% of what people do every single day is not conscious decision-making. It is habit. Nearly half your life is running on autopilot right now. Half. Which means the version of you that feels stuck, distracted, unable to change, that version is not you making bad choices. That version is you living inside a system of automatic behavior you never consciously built and never consciously chose. Here is what I am promising you by the end of this video. You are going to understand exactly how habits form in your brain, why they almost never break through willpower alone, and you are going to have a specific, science-backed system for rewiring the ones that are destroying your potential and building new ones that compound in your favor every single day. Not motivation, not a challenge, a system. And once you understand it, you will never look at your own behavior the same way again. Now, let me show you why this has been so hard. Because the enemy here is not you. The apps on your phone right now were designed by teams of engineers whose entire job was to make those apps as habit-forming as possible. They studied the same neuroscience we are going to talk about today. They mapped the exact neurological loops that make behavior automatic. And then they engineered every notification, every scroll mechanism, every like button, every autoplay feature to hijack those loops and plug themselves in. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, every platform. They did not become addictive by accident. They became addictive to design, using behavioral science research that was originally developed to understand slot machines. You are not fighting a bad habit. You are fighting a billion-dollar engineering effort pointed directly at your dopamine system. The deck was stacked before you even picked up the phone. And the school system that raised you, it taught you content but never taught you how your own brain actually works. Nobody sat you down and explained the neurological architecture of habit formation. Nobody told you that willpower is a finite resource that depletes by the afternoon. Nobody explained why knowing what to do and actually doing it feel like two completely different things. You were just expected to figure it out alone and blamed when you did not. But here is the good news. The same science they used to hook you can be used to free you. Changing your habits is not a personality trait. It is not something certain people are naturally good at, while others are doomed to struggle. It is a learnable skill with a specific, documented process. Think about the first time you learned to drive a car. At first, every single thing required your full conscious attention. Mirrors, pedals, steering, other cars, the speed limit, turn signals, all of it at once. It was genuinely overwhelming. And now? You have full conversations, listen to podcasts, make decisions, and drive somewhere without consciously processing most of it. Your brain took a complex behavior and compressed it into an automatic routine. That is exactly what habit formation is. And if your brain did it for driving, it can do it for anything. You just need the right framework. The book that maps this framework better than anything I have read is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Duhigg is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who spent years reporting on the neuroscience of behavior change, and what he assembled is the most clear and actionable explanation of how habits actually work in the human brain. Let us get into exactly what he found. The single most important thing Duhigg introduces is what he calls the habit loop. And once you see it, you will start noticing it everywhere, in yourself, in the apps you use, in the people around you, in the patterns you have been trying to break for months. The habit loop has 3 parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the trigger, the situation, emotion, time of day, location, or other person that tells your brain a habit is about to run. The routine is the behavior itself, the automatic action your brain executes in response to the cue. The reward is what your brain gets at the end, the feeling, the relief, the hit of dopamine that reinforces the entire loop and tells your brain this sequence is worth remembering. Here is why this matters so much. Duhigg explains that habits never actually disappear from the brain. The neurological pathway does not erase. What changes is whether the pathway gets activated, and the key that activates it is always the cue, which means trying to break a habit by fighting the routine is like trying to stop a train by standing in front of it. The real leverage is upstream, at the cue. The action today is this. Pick one habit you want to change and spend 5 minutes writing down what happens right before you do it. What time is it? Where are you? How are you feeling? Who is around? That is your cue. Name it. Now, here is where it gets really interesting, because Duhigg goes deeper than most behavior change books are willing to go. He argues that you cannot actually eliminate a habit. You can only replace it. The neurological loop stays intact in the brain even after years of not using it, which is why someone who has not smoked in a decade can relapse under enough stress. The craving never fully disappears. What changes is the routine that gets plugged into the loop. This is called the golden rule of habit change, and it is the most powerful practical insight in the entire book. Keep the same cue, keep the same reward. Change only the routine in the middle. If you stress eat at 10 p.m. because you are anxious and the food gives you temporary relief, fighting the anxiety and fighting the food at the same time is exhausting and almost always fails. But finding a different routine, a walk, a phone call, a 5-minute breathing exercise that delivers a similar feeling of relief at the end of the same cue, that works with your brain instead of against it. The action today: look at the habit you identified in the last concept and ask what reward you are actually chasing. What feeling do you get at the end? Name the reward, not the behavior. Then brainstorm one alternative routine that could deliver the same feeling. Let us keep going, because the next idea Duhigg introduces changed how I think about motivation in a really fundamental way. He talks about the role of craving in habit formation, and this is the piece that most people completely miss. It is not enough to have a cue and a reward. The habit loop only becomes automatic when your brain starts anticipating the reward before it arrives. That anticipation, that forward-leaning neurological pull toward the reward, is the craving. And the craving is what makes the loop feel magnetic and automatic instead of effortful. Here is the practical implication. When you are trying to build a new good habit, it feels hard at first, not because the behavior is difficult, but because the craving has not formed yet. Your brain has not yet learned to anticipate the reward, so there is no pull. The solution is to be deliberate about making the reward obvious, immediate, and emotionally satisfying in the early stages of a new habit. Duhigg calls this engineering the craving. If you want to build a workout habit, the first reward cannot just be being healthy in 5 years. That is too distant. Your brain needs something it can feel today. The endorphin rush, the sense of accomplishment, the specific song playlist you only allow yourself during workouts. Make the reward vivid and immediate. Today's action: for one new habit you want to build, design a specific, immediate reward you will give yourself right after completing it. Write it down. Make it something your brain will actually look forward to. Here is something Duhigg covers that I genuinely wish I had understood years earlier, because this is the concept that explains why some people seem to change everything at once, while others struggle to change a single thing. He calls them Keystone Habits, and the idea is this: not all habits are created equal. Certain habits have a disproportionate ripple effect across your entire life. When you change one keystone habit, it seems to trigger a cascade of changes in unrelated areas almost automatically. Exercise is the most documented example. Study after study shows that when people begin a consistent exercise habit, they spontaneously start eating better, sleeping more, spending less, drinking less, and being more patient in their relationships, none of which they consciously decided to work on. The exercise habit seems to shift something in their identity and their sense of self-control that spills into every other area. Duhigg also cites research on daily journaling, meditation, and meal planning as documented keystone habits. The mechanism is partly neurological and partly about the sense of agency and structure that one committed habit creates. Here is your action today. Instead of trying to overhaul 5 things at once, which is exactly how most people burn out in January, pick one potential keystone habit from this list and commit to it for 2 weeks. Exercise for 20 minutes. Write 3 pages of morning journal. Plan your meals the night before. Just one. Let it pull everything else. Now listen closely, because this next piece is where Duhigg connects individual habits to something much bigger, and it completely reframed how I understand social behavior. He talks about social habits, the habits that exist not in individuals, but in communities, organizations, and groups. And the relevance to you is direct. Research consistently shows that social context is one of the most powerful predictors of individual behavior change. Specifically, Duhigg references studies showing that people are dramatically more likely to maintain a new habit when they have social accountability embedded in the loop. Not just someone cheering them on from the sidelines, but someone whose opinion of them is actually connected to whether they follow through. This is not about finding a workout buddy in a casual sense. It is about deliberately structuring social consequences around your habits. The peer group you spend most of your time with is not just a social experience. It is an active force shaping your default behaviors in every direction. The action today: identify one person in your life who already has the habit you are trying to build and send them one message today. Not asking them to hold you accountable in some vague way, but asking to do the habit together on a specific day this week. Concrete, scheduled, real. Here is the final concept from Duhigg that pulls everything together, and it is the most important shift of all. He talks about the moment of belief, the research finding that shows people who successfully change habits long-term almost universally report that there was a moment where they genuinely started believing the change was possible. Not hoped, not wished, believed. And that belief almost always came from community, from seeing someone like them succeed, from belonging to a group that made the new identity feel real. Duhigg argues that willpower alone almost never sustains long-term change. What sustains it is identity. When the new behavior stops being something you are trying to do and starts being something you are, that is when the habit becomes permanent. The practice of building belief is not passive. You build it by tracking small wins, by choosing environments that reinforce the identity you want, by talking about yourself in the language of who you are becoming rather than who you are trying to be. Today's action: write down one sentence that describes you as if the habit is already yours. Not, I am trying to exercise. Write, I am someone who takes care of my body. Read it out loud once. Sounds small. Is not. Let me tell you a story that Duhigg tells in the book because it is one of the most stunning real-world examples of this entire framework in action. Lisa Allen was 34 years old and had struggled with obesity, debt, alcoholism, and smoking since her mid-20s. She had tried to change before, multiple times, and had failed every time. By the time she showed up in a research study at the National Institute of Health, she had been unemployed for 3 years, was in serious debt, and had not managed to sustain any positive habit for more than a few days at a time. Researchers were tracking brain activity and behavior change patterns, and Lisa was one of their subjects. What happened next shocked the researchers. After one specific trip to Cairo during a particularly low point, Lisa decided to train for a trek through the desert. It was almost impulsive. She gave herself 1 year. She started running, just running. And over the next 12 months, researchers watched as that single habit, the keystone of running, cascaded across her entire life in ways nobody predicted. She quit smoking. She stopped drinking. She paid off her debt. She went back to school. She started a business. 4 years after that Cairo moment, Lisa was unrecognizable on paper. She had not done a complete life overhaul through sheer discipline. She had pulled one thread, one keystone habit, and watched the entire structure of her life reorganize around it. If Lisa could do that from where she was, then where you are right now is not too far gone, not even close. The thread is available to you right now. You just have to pull it. So here is your challenge, right now. Not later today, not this weekend, abise. Pick one habit, just one, from everything we talked about. One keystone. One thing that if you did it consistently for the next 14 days would make you feel different about yourself. And right now, before you close this video, take the first physical step toward it. Set an alarm, text someone, open the app, lay out the shoes, write the first sentence. Something that makes it real in the physical world, not just an intention in your head. Because the gap between the people who transform and the people who stay stuck is almost never intelligence or motivation. It is the gap between deciding and doing the first physical thing. Close that gap right now. I'd say, today is day 1. Now close your eyes for a second and picture yourself 60 days from now. You wake up and the first 20 minutes of your day look completely different than they do right now. Not perfect, but intentional. You know your cue, you know your routine, you know your reward. The keystone habit is running quietly in the background of your life, and you can already feel the ripple. In your studies or your career, you are showing up differently. There is a sharpness, a follow-through, a reputation you are building with yourself that is starting to show up in how other people see you too. In your relationships, you are more present because the background anxiety of feeling out of control has quieted down. You are not white-knuckling your way through the day. You are flowing through a structure you built. And inside, this is the part that is hardest to describe until you feel it. There is a quiet confidence that was not there before. Not arrogance, not performance. The deep, settled confidence of someone who made a promise to themselves and kept it. That version of you is not 60 months away. It is 60 days away. And it starts with the thing you are going to do in the next 5 minutes. Here is what I want you to know before you go. The reason your habits have been hard to change is not because you are weak. It is not because you lack willpower. It is not because you are somehow less capable than the people around you who seem to have it together. It is because nobody ever taught you the actual mechanism. Nobody handed you the blueprint. You were expected to fight your own neuroscience with nothing but determination and a vague sense of guilt. That is not a fair fight. But now you have the blueprint. The science is inside you. Your brain is already wired for habit formation. Tom capable whole. The architecture is already there. All that was missing was the understanding of how to use it intentionally. And now you have that too. If this video shifted something for you, please share it with one person who is stuck in a loop they cannot seem to break. Not for us, for them. Like this video so more people find it when they need it most. And subscribe to Book Brief Hub because this is what we do here every single time. Go deep, go real, go practical. You already have everything you need. Now go pull the thread.